Good day, everybody. It's Trent Klarenbach with the Klarenbach Special Crops Report. Today I have David Nobbs with Harvest Grain with me, and we will film the third of a series of 3 videos on special crops. The first one is roughly about a month ago. We talked about green lentils. We followed that up a couple weeks later with the Canary seed report. And today we're going to discuss red lentils and peas, yellow and green peas, and any other peas I guess we want to talk about. Before we get started though, Dave will give an update on what he sees in the green lentil and canary seed markets before we get started. So,
okay,
Dave? Thanks,
Trent. So the canary seed, I'll give you a quick recap. There's a little bit of new information. I mean, StatCan, and we're into our canary seed harvest now. I was home at the farm on the weekend, and we were chewing through canary, and it's a significant crop. I can't understate that. It really responded to the cool, wet summer, or cooler and wetter summer, and later rains really boosted the yields. So, very impressed with the crop. Stat Canada, in their first report, I think was around 1,080 pounds an acre. In their report last week, they raised that to 1,300. I'm still saying 1,600 pounds. And the highest official yield in the last 25 years was 1,483 pounds in 2020.
Oh, wow.
And I think that this crop is significantly larger, so I'm still using a 1,600 pound crop. Okay. The acreage dispute between Stat and my beliefs, I don't have the crop insurance seeded acreage report. And that would be the final piece of information to say, this is what we're going to grow. Right now, I'm saying we're going to grow 300,000 tons and we're carrying in 60. That's my guess. And I don't think I'm too far off of some other people in the industry on that. And that's what's caused the market to simply drop and continue down to 20 cents. Earlier, I think we were 26, 27 cents when we had our first podcast, and then by the next one we were maybe 24 or 25, and now we're 20, and it's that trend. It's hard to break that trend right now. Yeah. So quick recap on the green lentil market. I mean, Estons continue to be oversupplied. There's just not enough diversity in our customer base, so most of our customers are just kind of simply full now. When we get into large greens, that market's come up a couple cents from the bottom, and went to the bottom was maybe 24, and now it's maybe 25, maybe 26 for a number one or extra two. And there is some short covering going on, but I would look at this as more of a dead cat bounce. What's the other term?
A bear market rally.
Bear market rally. Yeah, I mean, I would say this is more about that, because the long and short of it is we have 800, even as high as 1 million tons of green lentils to market. And, we've got some Indian demand coming in, which is positive, but at the same time, I don't think it's enough to really change the trend of the market overall. So this is an opportunity right now if you're selling large greens. Farmers have a tendency to sell the crop they're growing or they're harvesting, and then when they're done harvesting that crop, they worry less about it and they focus on their canola or their wheat or their canary seed, right? So, it's pretty quiet from the grower standpoint at this time, but at the same time, this is kind of a golf ball or soccer ball going down a garden hose type of situations. Okay. It hasn't really changed much. In fact, it's worse than, I would say, than the last time we talked. So we expect about half the crop is green lentils, half the crop is red lentils, and if we have about 4.4 million acres of red and green lentils, so about 2.2 million acres of reds specifically, and if I'm using about a 1,700 pound crop for production on the reds, which gives us about 1.65 million metric tons. But we have about another 350,000 tons of carry-in from last year. of reds.
Geez, that's a lot of carry-in for, there's some pretty sweet prices, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it was 33, 34, 35 cents was available.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt it that we know of some big chunks of reds that were carried out of last crop year into this crop year. And so, the question is, where does this market go? I didn't see the harvest pressure, but I didn't see a 50, 60 bushel red crop in spots. And so that got people selling because they were profitable per acre. And that stuff coming to the market and just pushed the market down to maybe 23 cents today.
Right.
So, so if we have 2 million tons, the other piece of information is Australia has stated their crops about 1.7 million metric tons as well. And they also have a 300,000 ton carry-in to their upcoming harvest in December. Now it's long ways from December, right, from harvest. So anything can happen to that crop. But if it chugs along and that crop is, good quality and high production and it confirms, so to speak, now we've got 4 million tons of product to sell in the red market between Australia and Canada. And that's a big problem. I mean, India from Canada took, I believe, about 500,000 tons in the last crop year of reds. So you've got India, you've got Turkey has a smaller crop, so they could take 200,000-300,000 tons. Australia last year sold India, I think, over 1 million tons of product, right? So they're closer to that market, those markets, and their quality is good, and they're a staunch competitor, and we have to recognize that. So every farmer has kind of did the same thing everywhere in the world over the last 12 months, whether it's African pigeon pea growers or Canadian farmers or American or Russian or Kazakhstanian or Australian. That's their main lentil producers in the world. They all rushed into this because it was better than the alternative, which is maybe durum or maybe it's canola or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So lots of moving parts, and India produces their own red lentil crop, and their harvest is in March. So if we get into a solid, harvest in India on top of our solid harvest, and their outlook isn't bad, I think you'll see reds go into the teens, right? Now, if there's something wrong with that crop, the Indian crop harvested in March, well, then it's going to put some bullishness into the red market. So that's really the only thing that can kind of help us here right now. So India has 2 crops right now. Their Kharif crop is growing. So that's the crop that grows the pigeon peas, which has impact on green lentil demand from Canada as a substitute. Then you've got the Rabi crop. So the Kharif crop is the monsoon crop. The Rabi crop is a dry season crop. And 90% of the moisture or crop potential for that crop is from the Kharif monsoons. And monsoons right now are normal, so it would look like that crop is normal that's coming in March, but it's not even seeded, right? But it gives us an indication that they're comfortable. The Indian government has stocks, some Canadian, Australian exporters, or product from Canada and Australia. Some of the exporters from those countries have products sitting in India in store, in a down market. The losses are huge. It's just a bad time in that market, right? So again, if you're looking at from a cash flow perspective, I just don't see the market doing much in the next few months, right? And it all comes down to what's next summer look like. Well, I have no idea. I mean, we've got so many different variables. The price could do anything by next summer, right? I've had a number of people tell me, well, farmers will just grow less. Yeah, they'll grow less, but if the price of an alternative crop is higher, right? But everything is down,
depressed,
right?
Yeah. So
I did my crop plan for my farm here on the weekend because we're starting to plan fertilizer applications for fall and chemical applications, and so you got to kind of take a wild guess. And I sat down and I had no idea what to put into my spreadsheet, right? No idea. But we're not growing less lentils this year, right? We're not growing less Canary seed because Durham is $7.50, and if Canary is 20 cents next year, well, that's not a bad spread. It's not double, but it's still not bad. So, there's a lot of those things farmers are going to be thinking about over the next while.
Yeah.
And so, it remains to be seen. And even we're having a great Canary seed crop now. I think, I should put more Canary and I'll do this again next year. But there's no chance of having that yield again next year, right? It'll be a lower yield.
Yeah.
And that's my belief. I think we've seen some of the best yields I've seen in my career this year.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Most people I've talked to, most people have never grown this much grain on their farm operation on a per acre basis before. So.
Yeah, lots of bid pressure things, and we haven't seen that for years. People, I think, were generally out of grain. I mean, we had hardly nothing on our farm come harvest, which is typical of our family. But I think that's the red lentil market in a nutshell. Is it's going to struggle to improve, and there's some lower quality come out of Canada. Like, we will have some lower quality reds, but we've got sample after sample that we see is a number one. It's a number one red. So if you've got extra threes, number ones and extra threes, they're pretty easy to come out of the plant as a two, right? I mean, it's just a very simple blend. So if people carried some poor old crops off, there'll be a marketing or a blending advantage for the grower.
Okay.
Right. So, but the problem is we haven't grown much low quality the last few years. In fact, we've hardly grown none. Right. Pet food market can take some red lentils in the U.S., but there's not much of that happening either. Buyers that were buying an Eston last year and substituted a cheaper red lentil. Right, they're not buying reds this year. They're just going to, now that's a handful of tons, but they're just going to focus on buying the small green lentil because it's cheaper now, or similar price anyway. Yeah. So I think you'll see less substitution, and it's hard to get bullish about reds today. Like, there's not, if somebody can give me some bullish tips, I'd like to hear them because I can't see it. I just don't see it today.
Well, the chart doesn't show signs of bullishness either. There's some hope areas right at this level we're at now, but that's about it. Just hopium is all we're...
Hopium?
Hopium. This is the interesting... these conversations always remind me of a Donald Rumsfeld's famous speech he gave about, I think it was about Iraq, with the known knowns and the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And, that's basically what we're... we know a few things. We think we know a few things, but we don't know what we don't know, and we know we don't know things, and it's quite interesting. So.
Yeah, it's the things we don't know that can affect the markets, but I don't have the answers today, right? I mean, it will change. It's always darkest before dawn, so we'll see demand in the red market, and something will come along, but. And we got to keep in mind we have competitors in this market, and people held stocks thinking prices were too low at 30 cents, or 32 cents, and now in my view, we're headed to 20 cents.
Yeah, that just goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago. You should really, in my opinion, you should market your grain on a per acre basis.
Right. Yeah.
If you're profitable. Maybe you got some profit margin targets. Maybe you're just profitable. But if you think the price is too low, 33 cents and 30 cents, and you take a 25-30% haircut on the price now on inventory. That's significant. So.
Yeah.
100%.
And it's the problem is those yields last year weren't great, right? So the grower in that case could be looking at yields thinking,
he needs more.
I told somebody I sold Canary seed at 27 cents, and he said, well, how does that work with your cost of production? I said, I don't know. I mean, but it's, you know, it's a big crop. You know, we're in the money from a cost standpoint, and the market's only going lower, and so at some point you don't care.
Yeah, so at 27 cents, you felt you were profitable in your farm without having your costs dialed in completely.
Yeah.
And to your point, in a downtrending market, you know, you really need to take the first loss.
Yeah.
And I feel you kind of did that, right? You realize it's going lower. I don't like 27 cents. I got a profit here, let's take it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only way you can do it. And, you know, I was pretty aggressive on some things, but, you know, wasn't aggressive enough on others because I'm going to grow simply more than I budgeted for. But, you know, that's a good thing because those last dollars are definitely a profit. You know, the cost per acre, I seen Kevin Hirsch had a report out, and producer, I believe, and talking about average costs of production per acre, right? And the problem with those numbers is everybody's got a different view. Everybody's got a different view about their costs, and that's mainly the cost of land, right?
Yeah.
You know, our cash costs, if you don't have a lot of debt, your cash costs on a crop might be $200 an acre, $250. If you got a lot of debt, there might be $400 or $500. How new is your equipment? You know, how utilized are you? I mean, tons of variables. So, you know, I'm only focused on kind of where the market's going, not where my costs are specifically.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times one factor left out of the equation is the opportunity cost.
Right.
So you might have that land paid for, but if you can get $50, $100, whatever that number is per acre rent.
Yeah.
Some people include that in their costs, other people don't.
So my Canary costs, for instance, are $250 an acre. That's my my cost.
Cash cost. Yeah.
And so add another $100 for rent. I'm at $350, but you know, we're going to be $600 plus, right? It's going to be the profit. So
yeah.
So we go on to peas. Pea production, you know, and I don't know my pea numbers as well as I know my lentil data, but Canadian peas, 3.5 million acres is Stat Canada's number. When I look at, you know, my field checks or field counts, I showed 7.5% increase in peas. Yep, 7.5%, and Stat Canada was about 9%.
Okay.
Canary and lentils are very focused into certain regions of the province, and so if I was to get a real accurate pea number from an acreage standpoint, I'd have to drive 10,000 kilometers, not 5,000 or whatever it is that I did drive. So you know, because they're grown from the Peace to Winnipeg to Lethbridge and everywhere in between, right? What I did notice on my driving was heavier acreage on the east side of the province, which I believe was a response to a $14 green pea from last year.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely a shift. So now we have about 3 million acres of yellow peas and about 500,000 acres of green peas. That green pea number's up about 150,000 acres. And I think that number is probably larger. And for the first time in my career, I'm seeing green pea production in areas where I've never seen it, right?
What are those areas?
You know, Kinnersley,
Really?
Kinnersley North. I mean, I don't recall green peas. I mean, I hardly traded a green pea when I was working in Kinnersley. So, no, I think it's there's probably a bigger expansion of green peas, but there's a lot of bleach product too this year. There's a lot of product that has high bleach counts, and so you know where that sorts out now, I don't really know, but the pea demand, and now if you move over to pea demand. Pea demand is into, you know, on yellow peas, it's really China and India. That's your lion's share of your demand. And either of those countries can take 1 million. Last year, India took 800,000 tons. Canada shipped about, I think, 700, close to 800,000 tons to China. And then in March, we had the tariff issue. So we've lost 5-6 months of our marketing year, right? So we carried out 500,000 tons of, I believe is the number. Yeah, about 500,000 tons of old crop into this crop year. And we're going to grow about 3.5 million tons. So you get about 4 million tons. And India is talking about tariffs because they don't really need the product. So there's not a lot happening there, although there might be some vessel business happening. And then you have China, which is virtually shut off, right?
So what is China using for where are they sourcing their product from then, if it's not from Canada?
Russia and Ukraine. So they've got so in the past they couldn't buy from Russia and Ukraine. I mean, they had a phytosanitary issue, so they resolved that. They got agreements, so now they can bring Russia and Ukrainian peas into China.
So these problems that Canada experiences with phytosanitary and different tariffs, they're actually, every exporting nation has them in some regard at some point in time.
Yeah, including Canada.
Yeah.
Right, like, so we have phytosanitary requirements for product coming into Canada.
Yeah.
But we're on the export side, so we never hear about those problems.
Right.
So yeah, these, and that's one of the things I learned back in 2010 when we had the Canary seed issue in Mexico, is that, Canada does some of this too. For some of it's for good reason. I think it's all probably for good reason, but some of it might be a bit misguided. But protecting industries and stuff, I think does happen. Right?
Yeah.
So, but in India, they put the tariffs on because the Indian government is required to buy all those pulses from the grower, from the farmer. So they can't be buying all this stuff from the farmer and competing and trying to trade it while they got vessel after vessel coming in at the same time. So they're going to try and protect that farmer, because that's 50% of the voting population.
Yeah.
Right, in that country at least.
Wow.
Is the grower. So they, on one hand, they're trying to lower food prices to help people in the cities, and at other times they want to raise pulse prices or prices in general for grain to help the growers, right? So they're very stuck into this issue. So I mean, it tells us, if they're talking tariffs, it tells us that, look, they probably got enough product of their own anyway, and probably weren't going to buy a lot. So that 10% tariff that happens in India is much different than the 100% tariff in China, right? The 100% tariff just closes business completely, but 10% on a $300 yellow pea is nothing, right? But it's telling us that they just don't have the demand. They have enough grain, and even if there was no tariff, they probably wouldn't buy much.
Right.
So.
And there's no freight advantage for the Ukraine or Russia into China, or is there?
I don't really know that answer.
There might be. The reason I asked that question is I got a friend in Moscow, and he was telling me and he brought that to my attention, that where I'm located here, I could be anywhere in Canada, I'd be in Montreal or Saskatchewan. I'm actually closer to the eastern border of Russia than Moscow is. Oh. Which I didn't understand.
Right.
So if that's the situation, I guess maybe ocean freight's more than rail, but I mean, nonetheless, that's a question I had. So.
Well, ocean freight's always, dirt cheap compared to rail.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
A lot, $30, $40 a ton is the ocean freight, and our rail in Canada is $80, $90 a ton Canadian to the port. But
so maybe we actually have a freight advantage to China versus Ukraine or Russia.
One thing we have is a quality advantage. Our pea product is better than theirs.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you got to pay 100% tariff on Canadian product and nothing on Russian, well, you're probably gonna sort through the Russian product and find the product that meets your requirements, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and I thought by now that this tariff thing would be lifted. You know, there looks like there's at least a little work going on. Scott Moe was in China, and you know, there actually seem to be working on it now, instead of dead silence that we had for 5 months.
Right.
Right. So, you know, long story short, with Chinese demand, we still have a bearish pea market. And we still have 4 million tons to market. Now we're a couple months into our marketing year, right? Almost 2 months into our marketing year. So we got 10 months left, right? So, you know, you say you get a tariff lift, it's going to be a month or two before shipments start, right? So that's the other real issue with this thing, is we're chewing away at the year. But, you know, sizable crop. It really surprised me that the acres of peas went into the ground this spring, considering we had 100% tariff into China.
Right.
They're the biggest demand sink we have generally.
Why do you suppose that was ignored or dismissed?
Urea pricing.
Urea pricing.
I mean, that was the big thing. And then, you know, and that's a good segue into 2026. Like, urea price is still high, right? So the grower still has that issue to balance, and he's got lower grain prices on all the crops. So pulse crop acreage could stay pretty stable.
So what are you hearing for urea prices right now?
It's funny you asked that, because I just asked for that price, and I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
I think yesterday I sent a message on that.
Okay.
Phos prices are high. I mean, pulses tend to be a lower user of phos. You know, so that's another component. But you know, our farm this year had the highest cash costs of any year in the history of our farm, right? Like, it was the most expensive year that we had to put a crop in.
Based off the fertilizer.
Fertilizer and fertilizer. It's all fertilizer prices.
How much did your fertilizer costs go up versus your benchmark or your budgeting year?
25-30%, like,
Yeah.
compared to what I'm used to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
A few bushels then?
yeah. So we've got still these high fertilizer prices, and we've got much lower, you know, crop prices in our minds for 26, right? So yeah, there's lots of hard decisions have to be made. And like I said, I did my crop plan for the upcoming year, and we'll see how that looks. But
Yeah.
so yeah, and the, you know, what can jar the pea market? What can change the course of this? You know, and really, number one thing has to be opening of China. We will not see yellow or green pea market rally unless we see China open its doors, right? Removal of the tariff. Until that happens, the market's going to be sloppy. But over time, you know, the crop is getting bigger as we lose crop months, right?
Yes.
You know, so our problem gets worse for every month that China's closed. Now, could India come in at some point on a yellow pea? They grow their own green peas. Interesting comment, India used to buy lots of green peas. And they used to buy 400, 300, 400. They'd buy from Argentina, from us. And they bought a lot. And then they started growing their own. And so now a couple of years ago, they had a 400,000 metric ton green pea crop, right? So they had all the green peas they needed themselves, their own production. You know, so it's mainly yellow peas that go into India. And we had a couple years ago, we thought the market was bearish, and all of a sudden, India opened the doors, right? So if there was a problem with the Kharif crop, if there's problems with the Rabi crop, could India come in and boost the market? Yes. I'm not going to say I can predict that. I can't. But you know, if our present course remains, yeah, we got a problem. We got a big issue.
So yeah, interesting. So Indian farmers, they fill their own market essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too long ago that India was a net exporter of lentils, right? So they have a tendency, they can grow quite a bit. I mean, I believe they grew 2 million tons of reds here last year, right? At one point, the state government owned 800,000 tons of reds, right? So it's not just our 2 million from Canada and our 2 million from Australia. It's these stocks that are in the countries,
Right.
sitting there waiting for a home, right? And the longer it waits, the lower value it's been. So it's squeezed the exporter that shipped it to India, right?
Interesting. Do you think those country stocks went up? Those country state buying agencies increased their stocks during the high prices just for a food security issue? Above normal?
It goes
normal
back
levels?
and forth. I mean, sometimes they're expanding their stocks. Sometimes they say they want to get rid of stocks. Yeah, there isn't a lot of rhyme nor reason. We used to see, them come in and buy a pile, and then they would sell it at a loss within the country to reduce their consumers' food prices, reduce their inflation, essentially.
So yeah, it's a political tool like it's always been.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, everything's politics in India.
Yeah, well, even Canadian grain, every grain market in the world, right?
Yeah.
You got to feed your people, or you don't stay in government.
Yeah. Was it Syria? One of those countries got toppled because of food supply.
Oh, really?
I can't remember which, but
Well, there's an issue in Egypt there a number of years ago, but I forget what that was all about. I don't watch the news. So.
yeah. I watch too much, but I just watch the wrong stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how I see the pea market. And there's going to become a point where I will start to become bullish. It feels like I've been a bear for 4 years, but there's a point where these markets will turn around, right? I mean, yellow peas, at $6. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people. Well, I mean, you can almost feed them at that value, right? Feed them to hogs at $6. Well,
yeah.
Not almost. You can feed them at that value, right? So I don't think you'll see it possibly go lower. And maybe we see some firmness in the market.
Yeah.
In the new year, especially if China opened. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty bleak. So.
Well, yeah, I guess here's hoping, I guess. Yeah, I wonder what all the issues are. Do you think it's just simply a retaliation for EVs tariffs, or is there more to that?
I mean, some people are adamant that's what it is, and other people are adamant that those people know nothing and it's about something else. And yeah, it would appear EV is part of it. I think there was a Chinese ambassador to Canada was at a meeting and stated that it was in response to the EV tariffs, right?
Okay.
And but why is it taking Kearney this long to get to the bottom of it? We don't have an electric vehicle industry here. We're going to continue to consume petrol fuel. What's the word?
Fossil fuels?
Fossil fuels. We're going to continue that.
Well, from my understanding, this is what I remember when those tariffs came on, the U.S. government leaned on Canada.
To put them on,
Put them on. So it's, as most things, nothing's clear, and it's more complex than what we understand it to be.
Yeah, for sure. He's got his own. He's trying to negotiate with the U.S. at the same time, and I wouldn't want his job. Don't get me wrong.
No.
And it must be difficult to remove that tariff because the ag sector is larger than the auto sector in Canada. I heard some numbers on that. Of course, I can't remember them, but. I mean, ag is significantly larger than autos, but there's less votes. There's more votes where the auto production is than where the grain production is, right? And so they don't have our support already, so I guess we get the short end of it.
Yeah. Vote Liberal.
Vote Liberal. Yeah. That'd be.
How would that strategy go over out here in Western Canada, eh?
Yeah, just start convincing.
Yeah.
You start on Facebook and I'll follow.
Yeah, I don't have appetite for that.
Yeah. No, so that's kind of what I know today. We're splitting green peas now in Zealandia. We got a partnership with a company that's splitting, so we're looking for low bleach peas to split. We're we're still buying all the product, and every day we buy some of each grain, right?
Yep.
And people have a tendency to believe that nobody's selling in these kind of markets, and that's not the case, right? And I think people want to believe that sometimes when they're not doing any marketing either, right?
Yeah. You tend to believe your own bias and your own belief system. So what about selling now for delivery? Can you still get delivery in the fall for a lot of these products across the prairies?
Yeah, I think it's some of the special crops like Canary seed. We're almost booked till the end of December now from a procurement standpoint.
Okay.
Eston Lentils, I think, is going to have a backlog. It's going to be a log jam, and it's going to be hard to get delivery. I shouldn't say that. Large greens, last stuff we bought was December, January. Now we might be able to take it into November, but the whole system's getting pushed out, right?
Yeah.
Yellow peas with the line companies, I think you'll be able to sell them at any point. Green peas could get difficult at times to turn it into cash because our markets are limited because of the Chinese tariffs. But for the most part, I think there's always somebody looking for something.
Yeah.
It's not 2013 yet in the special crop business, and we'll see in the new year.
What happened 2013?
Well, that's when the whole grain system was plugged. There wasn't enough capacity on the prairies.
Okay.
Yeah, and there wasn't enough port, terminal shipping. There wasn't enough port capacity in Vancouver, right? So now G3's built a monster, and there's more capacity. Plus, there's a lot of terminals have been built across the prairies. So I think delivery won't be the problem in the big grains. I think the problem could come into some of these smaller grains.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we talked about the last video is if you want to generate some cash this fall, make some sales.
Yeah, you have to do it now.
Yeah.
Depending on the crop, like less so with yellow peas, more so with Canary seed or Estons, in my view.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, so the big crop, going to put some pressure on shipments of grain this year, and even maybe pose some challenges on cropping decisions for next year. So potentially, if as a grower, if growers still want to reduce their fertilizer costs, the feasibility that a pea or a pulse crop could be more attractive than a wheat or a durum or a canola.
Yeah.
So we could actually exacerbate this year's problem next year.
Yeah, and that's quite possible. I mean, we've seen that in the Canary seed market in 04, 05, where in 05 the tonnage, the carry out just increased, right? And so we need that ethanol boom of 07 to fix it, or some catalyst.
That's when that was, 07?
Yeah. Because in 05 we traded 8-cent large green lentils to the grower for a number 2. I think we were 6 or 4 cents for a number 3. And by 07 that stopped, that was off the table, and everything started to rally.
In my opinion, that was the most significant impact on North American agriculture.
Yeah,
By nothing even comes close to it.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, what's the news on that? Ethanol, is there talk of increasing usage or what?
I don't follow that stuff too
Yeah.
closely, so I'm not the guy to ask. But I don't know the answer. But you're right, to have a catalyst like that happen again in our life is probably unlikely, the size of that one, right?
That changed agriculture.
Right.
Agriculture was in the shitter for a lot of years.
Right.
Until that happened. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good. Anything else you want to leave off with?
No, that's I think about it. Again, I'm going to say this one last time. I could not envision quite the drop that we've seen in all of these markets, but never anticipated that when we started discussing.
No.
In spring about doing something like this, right?
No.
And
We didn't anticipate these yields because
No.
remember before Egg in Motion,
yeah,
it was like 2 weeks before that, guys were ready to fill out crop insurance forms.
yeah.
Now
Yeah.
they're buying bins.
Some of those lentil crops that we literally didn't think would do anything are 30 or 35 bushel lentil crops. Yeah, just unbelievable.
Wow.
So, there's some brightness, there's some good news here too, right?
How much of the forest fires do you think played a part of that?
Oh, there was a previous year where forest fires were expected, was it 20?
I don't know. I think I reposted my post on my tweet, I guess, at that time on Twitter. It's probably, no, it might have been 2015 even.
Okay.
It was forest fires, and I just published some nonsense tweet about farmers conspiring to protect their canola crop. But
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to have helped, but I think the big thing that helped was just the coolness.
yeah.
Yeah, and then it's delayed our harvest.
Well, that smoke
3
cover
weeks.
helped that, probably
Yeah.
a couple degrees on any given day.
Yeah, it was probably part of it. So
Yeah.
tough way to gain some production, but
Yeah.
so yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to publish my ideas with red lentils and peas in the next coming days, maybe by Saturday, in the Klarenbach Special Crops report. So, well, Dave, thanks a lot for coming,
Okay, thank you, Trent.
and this is great.